I made a kid throw up one day.
I thought you were proud of it.
I am very proud. All right, this is Santa Claus.
Ready? Exterior North Pole night. The near full moon beams down on the snow-covered landscape. Evergreen trees spike up into the dark sky like soldiers standing guard. The wind howls through the trees, dragging thick, swirling snow along. The snow piles up next to a warmly lit window peering into a barn. A large, silhouetted, beastly creature prowls up to the window. The barn displays a wide array of decorations ranging from garland to twinkling lights. A hammer rapidly cracks against the wood inside the barn. A large, stocky finger lumbers around inside like a linebacker rooting through a refrigerator. Interior barn night. A calendar hanging crookedly on the wall reads December 22nd. Santa Claus, 60s, balding, seasoned face, warm, generous eyes, beastly, overweight body, adorned in red pants and a thick jacket. He runs his hand down the side of an extremely weathered-looking sleigh. An inscription on the side of the sleigh reads, "Joy is what you bring. Bring some for yourself. Love you always." He fiddles with an intricate ring made of wood consisting of carved, intertwining mistletoe that wraps around his wedding finger. He sighs at the sleigh's aging state, but continues to hammer away at the broken panels, determined to keep it together for another run. He looks over the old sleigh to a brand new sleigh shimmering in the moonlight.
I just can't do it. Fancy new. Too many memories.
He pauses for a moment, pondering the possibilities, then returns to his work. A dark, looming silhouette skulks past the window behind this jolly old fat man. The reindeer grunt and groan nervously in their stables at the back of the barn. Santa, leaning over, drops the hammer and snaps up a cookie from a huge plateful. Then he grabs one of the 2 glasses of milk resting on the workbench. A small, open flask of bourbon sits behind. Santa, with great effort, rises to his feet and slumps with his right arm draped over the side of the sleigh. He gobbles down 4 more cookies and chases them with the milk bourbon mix. The reindeer shuffle around unsettled.
Ease up, little saddlers. There's only a little mixed in. I learned this nifty craft in Trapper Creek, Alaska. Who would have thought? Bourbon and milk.
Full of sadness, he gazes down as his finger caresses the details of a smaller, more delicate ring with matching designs to the one he wears.
Haha, dear. Remember where we found this bourbon? It was the 70s. I accidentally set down on Versailles, Kentucky, thinking it was the home of Versailles. I was so bad with directions. Still am. She was such a good kid. Well, dear, I guess that's it. Bottoms up.
He slips the ring into his pocket and clinks the bottom of his glass to the top edge of the other one. The barn doors fly open with a slam and a cold snow-filled wind blows in. Werewolf 1, unknown age, massive, legs of a wolf, front legs like man's arms, dark gray fur, vibrant green eyes, faded maroon-colored pants. It stands on back, hunches with deadly teeth exposed. Werewolf 1 howls and growls, dropping down onto all 4 legs. The drink spills from Santa's hand, shattering on the wooden floor, and milk splashes everywhere. The beast, breathing heavily, slinks into the building. Drool spills from his exposed teeth. The reindeer grunt and rumble in their stables. Werewolf 1 jolts forward at Santa. He slips in the spilled milk and flips backwards into the old sleigh as Werewolf 1 crashes onto the side.
Wait, I just fixed that!
Werewolf 1 slumps back onto its hunches and shakes off the blow to the head. In the sleigh, Santa snatches the emergency wrap cannon that's dislodged from the seat and turns it on Werewolf 1. He fires. Pop! Werewolf 1's front left foot and the post beside him become enveloped in wrapping paper. Werewolf 1 thrashes at him and catches the front of his jacket, tearing a hole in it. Santa backs away as far as he can, just out of reach of the werewolf. Werewolf 1 growls and then bites at the wrapping paper, chaining it to the pole. The paper shreds and the werewolf lunges. Santa leaps to his feet and jumps out of the sleigh. Werewolf 1 turns and bites, catching Santa in the left hand.
Yo!
It shakes him, and he throws him against one of the stables like a rag doll. Pieces of hay flit into the air from the disturbance. Werewolf 1 races towards Santa, again with teeth exposed.
Easy, big fella.
Santa dashes around the table, Werewolf 1 hot on his heels. He runs past the stable door, and it violently swings open. A large bony leg flies out, tripping Werewolf 1. 2 hoofed feet spear out of the stable, smacking Werewolf 1 square into the mouth. Werewolf 1 flips backwards towards the open doors, leading outside, and crashes onto its back. The angry werewolf leaps to his feet, ready to fight, its head covered in snow at the shape of a lady's beehive haircut. It shakes off all the snow, matted onto its fur. All the reindeer, out of their stables, surround Santa like a security detail. Werewolf 1 howls and turns towards the cold outside. Exterior, Santa's workshop, night. 2 small figures race out of the workshop across the way. Capitus, 35 to 40, tall for an elf, lanky and pointy ears, efficiency expert, rubs his bald head with his left hand, holding a timepiece. He holds a clipboard in the other hand that he glances down at through tiny nose spectacles. He wears an impeccably pressed blue elf uniform without so much as a thread out of place. Proficio, 22, gadget maker, short with a beard and large pointy ears, sloppy dresser, covered in oil. He follows right behind with his messy clothes untucked and leaving a trail of oil prints in the snow. The 2 elves bicker as they stumble through the snow towards the barn.
Will you hurry up? We have exactly 25 minutes and are 32 seconds before we are scheduled to run through the simulator, and you're too afraid to get on the roof to repair.
Hey, Captain Frosty Pants, will you loosen up? I'm on it. The work can be done perfectly fine from the solid footing of the ground.
Perhaps if you were 10 feet tall.
Turn back! Run! Run!
The 2 elves stop dead in their tracks when Werewolf 1 bursts from the barn and pounces with a thud onto the snow before them. It growls and rears up on its hind legs, about to attack. A booming gunshot echoes through the forest and cracks off a rock next to Werewolf 1. It jerks back, startled. Capitus and Proficio look over at the dark edge of the forest as a bundled stranger bursts from the darkness lit by the moon. Elsa Yukon, 45, game hunter. Tall, striking woman with a fast-talking, strong presence, enthusiastic and cocky. Elsa clutches a rifle in one hand and expertly steers a snowmobile at high speed in their direction. She jumps the snowmobile over a snow pile and slams it down between Werewolf 1 and the elves. She whips out a fiery torch and thrashes it back and forth in the beast's face.
Back to the forest! Go!
It lets out a huge growl and barks, then skulks off into the forest. A small crowd of elves have gathered at the door. Capitus and Proficio help Santa towards the workshop. Santa signals to the stranger.
Please, bring yourself inside and get warm.
Interior, Santa's workshop. The vast workshop bustles with activity. An assembly line, loaded with toys, buzzes with various stages of toy construction. Dolls, toy trucks, electronics all come together here. At the end of the line, the toys are flipped into the air. 2 elves take turns with wrap cannons firing at the toys, engulfing them in wrapping paper. The wrapped toys drop back onto the line and a robotic arm snags them, then places them into a storage box. Santa slumps into a chair at the far end of the shop as Capitus tends to his wound. Santa pokes his finger through the hole in his new jacket, then slides it over to another spot that has been hand-stitched. He slips the ring out of his pocket again and clenches it in his fist.
We are precisely 45 seconds late for your practice.
Yes, Cap, that can wait. Thank you for jumping in and scaring off that crazy growly face thing. We don't get many visitors up this far, except 4 years ago when an expedition of researchers came looking for... no matter. What brings you this so far north?
Elsa, standing next to a roaring fire, unravels her garments like a mummy. A well-polished and maintained Marlin 1895 lever rifle leans against the wall. She folds a thick fur jacket neatly over the arm of the chair. The top of a small tin container shimmers from the inner pocket. Elsa removes a bushy scarf and thick winter toque. Her long flowing blonde locks cascade down around her forest green sheep's wool vest covering her shoulders. She snaps out her hand and presses Proficio a business card.
The name's Elsa Yukon. You've probably heard of me.
Her intense eyes look as impressive as the way she barks her sentences matter-of-factly. Capitus and Proficio both look on with gaping mouths. She slaps Capitus in the arm. Santa looks at the others with a shrug. Proficio nods in agreement with a silly smile. The wind howls by the window outside.
I trap big game. You know, the big stuff. I've trapped some of the biggest game you'll ever lay your pretty eyes on. I've been from here to Argentina and everywhere in between, if you know what I mean.
She pins her long hair up into an orderly bun. Capitus, doing a poor job of wrapping Santa's wounded hand, happily gives way to Elsa as she snatches the band from him.
You've just been bitten by a werewolf, old chap. I've been tracking it for the last 365. I was on it when it attacked you, so I intervened.
She wraps up Santa's hand like a seasoned nurse. Capitus snaps the business card from Proficio.
Werewolf?
You got it. I had no intention of heroics. I hit a bad bump and misfired. I know who you jolly ho-hos are. Glad I could help.
Santa looks impressed at his well-wrapped hand. Elves, 2 females and 1 male, varying heights and ages. They pass by the door, chattering away.
We have to get moving. Tick-tock, tick-tock.
Mr. Frosty Britches needs to settle down for 5.
That's pretty much what I said.
Get that wound tended to. Not just bandages, you're gonna need much more. You should listen. I'm smart. But I'm sure you can tell. Funny thing how timing works. Just when you're ready to pack it in, opportunity walks right up and smack.
Evidently. How would you feel about staying with us for a while? We've got plenty of room and lots of sugary snacks to munch on. My wife can... I can make up a room.
Elsa pauses for a moment, thinking it over.
You tempt me, old chap. Maybe for a short piece, until the extreme cold breaks. Curious to see what comes next.
Capitus waves over a couple of elves.
What comes next?
Elsa smiles and picks up her gun. She walks backward slowly.
Good night, gents.
She turns away and follows the elves carrying her things. Interior workshop library, night. Capitus runs his finger across the spines of a bunch of books, coming to rest on one that reads Supernatural Creatures. He leaps over and slams the book down on a round wooden table. The tall, narrow circular room has floor-to-ceiling shelves with books jammed in every nook. Proficio dangles halfway up the ladder, holding on for dear life. He peers through clasped arms, looking for a book as he slides the wheeled ladder back and forth. Santa drops into his seat at the table next to Capitus. The old wooden chair creaks in pain, struggling to support his full weight. Dust wafts out as Capitus flips through each page. Santa rubs his forehead.
Werewolves, werewolves.
Passing by witches, ghosts, leprechauns, the page finally comes to rest on werewolves. Capitus stabs his finger down on the page.
Werewolves.
Can somebody give me a hand? This is really high.
They both scan the book for useful information.
It states here that we need to obtain some DNA from the beast who bit me.
If we can't get you free cold turkey, we'll have to resort to chemical assistance, yes.
Still here, by the way.
You have until the final stroke of midnight during the next full moon, or your body will give in to the change. It'll be impossible to come back.
Come back from...
Full werewolf.
Santa and Capitus turn towards Proficio.
See, I know some stuff.
Full werewolf, exactly.
Capitus takes a big gulp and wipes away a bead of sweat slithering down his face.
You may start to show signs before then. Become irritable, anger easily.
Santa unravels his bandaged left hand and the wound has completely healed.
So, yeah, I guess this is really high over here. I love heights so much and all. Come on!
Santa whips out the calendar and flops it down on the table. His eyes light up as he reads through the days.
Great bundles of wrap. The next full moon is tomorrow night. Christmas Eve.
Outside the glass ceiling, a cold wind howls as though laughing at the unfortunate situation. Proficio, still clinging for dear life halfway up the ladder, nervously pops a book free from the top shelf with a long wooden stick. The book plummets down. It bounces off his head and he slips, dangling, upside down. He slides down 3 rings still hanging by his legs. He covers his eyes in terror and refuses to get down. Santa picks up the book, Antidotes and Elves, a small cookbook for big ailments. and plucks Proficio from the ladder like an apple from a tree. Capitus snaps up his clipboard and indicates with a point to his timepiece that they need to be somewhere.
I do not wish to be a stickler, but I kinda do. I need you in top shape and on time.
Dear boy, I'm fully aware of what needs to happen. Just give me a moment to let it all sink in. I've seen plenty of things in my time. None like this.
I really wish we had the time. We're on a very tight schedule. Recent developments are not on the agenda.
Seems they're on the agenda now. Time's not going to be our friend of any friend of ours.
Do you think you'll be able to hold it together tomorrow night?
Yes. Just let me think.
Proficio pours himself into the chair, relieved as Santa gently places the book in his lap. Santa and Capitus scuttle out the door in a hurry.
Was it something I said?
Interior, Santa's workshop, kitchen, night. Elsa, adorned in her winter jacket and wool sweater, flicks the light on as she steps into the kitchen.
Oh, hi there. You started me, old chap.
Elsa tucks her hand into her jacket pocket. Santa sits draped over the counter with a drink in his hand and a mostly empty plate of cookies. Crumbs scattered about trail over to him. He spins the smaller ring around on the counter in front of his face.
Just popped out to lock up my snowmobile.
Santa lifts his head up off the counter and slips the ring in his pocket.
I wouldn't concern yourself. Not a lot of threats up here. Although we don't normally see many werewolves either, yet here we are.
He wipes crumbs from the front of his shirt and suspenders.
Me, I'm prepared for anything / everything. Always am, always will. Got a bit of a thing for cookies, do ya?
Santa stares at the last cookie as Elsa flips it into her hand.
I've been known to succumb to indulgence.
That's me in a nutshell. When there's something I want, I'll find my way right over there and take it.
Santa glances at the cookie dancing around in her hand. As gestures while speaking, he slides his hand across the counter, holding a glass of milk and a bottle.
Speaking of such things, bourbon and milk, indulging on occasion is perfectly acceptable, just so long as we aren't consumed by it.
Bourbon and milk, you say? Don't mind if I do. I say, why stop if there's something you must have? Succumb. You've got the right to conquer a new challenge, or any challenge for that matter.
Elsa passes the cookie under her nose, sampling the inviting fragrance. Santa tips the bottle into the glass, splashing some liquid in.
At what cost?
At any cost. Who wants to just fade away, forgotten by time?
Elsa goes to take a bite of the cookie. Santa can't take his eyes off it as he taps his glass to hers with a clink. She lowers the cookie and flips the glass back to her mouth, making short work of the drink.
Sometimes I like to remember. Remembering comes with a price too.
Whew, smooth. Easy for you to say, old chap, being who you are and all. Me, legacy, can name its price.
Santa rounds up a few crumbs from the plate and scoops them up. A bead of sweat races down from his forehead.
You're an ambitious woman.
Santa tosses the crumbs into his mouth, followed by the glass to his lips.
Some would say too ambitious. I'd say they're onto something. Staying out of my way is always a good policy.
I was ambitious once, traveling the world. Feels more like a chore now. Been a long, long year. Remind me not to get on your bad side.
Elsa once again moves the cookie towards her mouth and stops short. Santa's face tenses as he grows more annoyed.
Everyone ends up on my bad side. So tell me, what's with the ring, old chap?
Santa snaps from his cookie trance.
Just a memento. To remind me.
Remind you of...
Elsa flips the cookie back down onto the plate.
I'm off to bed. Maybe tomorrow will bring you closer to conquering your white whale.
Santa walks towards the door.
I have no doubt. So close now. Sleep fast.
Santa stops and snaps up the last cookie and slips out the door. Interior, practice simulator, day. A fireplace sits cold in the darkness of a room. 4 fuzzy stockings hang from the mantel as a cool glow emanates from the window beside. A dark, looming figure skulks through the room over to the fireplace. Santa Claus reveals himself as he slumps his bag of presents onto the floor and places toys into the stockings. Interior, control room. Capitus intently watches a huge monitor with a console loaded with switches, dials, and controls tracking all of Santa's movements. He clenches his timepiece in front of his face as he checks off various milestones. Elsa sneaks into the room and slides into a chair behind. Quiet like a mouse, she looks on excitedly. Capitus leans into a microphone and clicks the broadcast button.
You'll need to pick up the pace. You're about 35 seconds behind your best time.
Santa on the monitor looks over his shoulder with a raised eyebrow.
I know!
Capitus flips the broadcast switch off. Screech! Then he flicks the switch labeled Enviro Control to on. Interior, practice simulator. The dark night clouds part, revealing a full moon in the night sky outside of the window where Santa slinks around the room placing trinkets. He drops the presents in his hands and turns hypnotically to the window as the cold light of the moon shines in on him. Interior control room. Capitus stops checking things off the list as his timepiece continues to tick on. Elsa jumps up with excitement and approaches the view screen. Santa lets loose a deafening howl and his eyes turn yellow on the monitor. He turns away and his body size grows, splitting his jacket down the back. He falls out of view. Capitus jerks his head around trying to get a better look. A huge yellow eye fills the entire monitor. Capitus stumbles backwards.
Marvelous.
The monitor turns completely dark. Capitus stumbles over to the controls. Howling, smashing, crashing noises muffle through the wall. Capitus frantically hits buttons and deactivates the simulator. A loud hum fades to the quiet hum, and a loud pop indicates the lights have come on. The sound of silence looms from the simulator room. Boom. The door next to the monitor leading into the simulator room has a huge dent punched into it from the other side. Boom. Then another. Boom. Boom. Elsa's eyes light up as she grins and slinks out the door. The sounds all stop. The monitor flips back on, only for a second at a time. Santa sits in the middle of what's left of the practice simulator. He seems calm now. Capitus flips his timepiece onto the console and places his hand on his forehead. Cut to interior Santa's workshop. Capitus entices Santa back into the main part of the workshop. Santa, now back to his normal height, but much leaner, follows him out. His head twitches and he squints his eyes. Capitus flips his timepiece open and studies it.
We have exactly 36 hours, 12 minutes, and 42 seconds until we have to proceed on the big trip.
Proficio tightens a bolt on the centrifuge machine.
What you may have to look at is the practice simulator. There may be something up with the lighting in there.
Was anyone hurt? What did I do?
Everything's just fine. Better than fine, in fact.
Elsa steps into the room dressed in her winter gear with her rifle aimed at Santa. She looks much more menacing now. Capitus and Proficio jump back, confused by her change in demeanor. She moves forward with confidence. Then the three back away, slowly.
I'm gonna need you. Dead or alive. Barnum hauled Jumbo's dead carcass around for years. He made a fortune off those old bones.
Capitus nudges Proficio and points with his head. Proficio looks at him confused. He points again with his face.
This is about money? How I was wrong about you, young lady. You were always such a good kid. I know what list you're going on.
Proficio points back to Capitus with his face. The two elves nod back and forth at each other. Elsa looks at the two, and they stop and smile.
Ha! List! You can put me on the guest list for all the A-listers in town. People will pay millions to see a real werewolf. I can barely fathom the dollars they'll dole out for a Santa werewolf. I can see the headlines now. Santa Claus.
Proficio finally clues in with a dramatic, understood nod.
Here's something to fathom.
He punches the power button on the centrifuge next to Elsa and the machine roars to life. It quickly spins and slashes the gun from her hand.
Go!
Santa takes off like a shot and smashes through a window out into the frigid northern temperatures. Elsa picks up her gun and hits Capitus with the butt, knocking him into a bunch of boxes.
Fool! No matter. I live for the hunt.
Exterior, Santa's workshop night. Elsa leaps through the window, but Santa quickly vanishes into the forest. Elsa hops onto her snowmobile like a cowgirl mounting her trusty steed. She tears off after him. External, forest, night. Santa bounds effortlessly through the forest like a wildcat. The light from Elsa's snowmobile beams behind, flickering as it passes by tree after tree. She's making up some ground.
You should probably run. I'm good. Damn good.
Santa glances over to the woods beside her. The moonlight cuts into the forest, illuminating another werewolf. Werewolf 2, unknown, large beast, brilliant yellow eyes, black fur with a patch missing on the side, wears a tattered, faded, maroon-colored shirt. Its glowing yellow eyes float in the darkness of the forest. Santa pushes harder and picks up the pace. He grins, impressed with his newfound strength. A train horn screams from ahead.
This feels good. Really good.
Exterior, deeper in the forest, night. A freight train rips through the cold air. Snow swirls in every direction. Santa sprints up next to the train and easily leaps on top. He looks at his hands and body with delight. Santa's breath whisks away as the train speeds through the night. Werewolf 2 launches from the darkness and lands on the train in front of Santa. Elsa on the snowmobile jumps onto the trail.
Clever beast.
Santa and Werewolf 2 spar at the top of the train. Santa loses his temper and overpowers Werewolf 2.
Stay down, beast.
Again, he smiles.
I could get used to this.
Elsa, trying to keep up, attempts to take a shot as she steers the snowmobile. She fires and hits the train. Beside Santa and Werewolf 2. Werewolf 2 leaps at Santa. Both tip off balance. Santa rips a handful of fur from Werewolf 2 as the two of them flip off the train and crash through the side of an old decrepit building. Interior, old building, abandoned lumber town. Werewolf 2, buried beneath snapped pieces of wood, lays unconscious. Santa on his feet slinks off into the abandoned remains of this old, partially snow-buried town. Exterior, abandoned lumber town. The almost full moon casts an eerie glow on these old buildings. Elsa's snowmobile headlight drowns out the moon as she skids to a stop. Santa creeps around the side of one of the buildings and surveillances from a distance. Werewolf 2, now awake, bursts through the old wooden building wall. Elsa turns her gun on him and takes aim. The intimidating werewolf approaches. Elsa stares through her gun sight. Santa, watching from a distance, scurries closer. Elsa turns her weapon away from approaching Werewolf 2 and scans the area through her gun sight. She sees nothing but darkness. Werewolf 2 moves in close to Elsa and rubs its head against her side. Exterior, side of a building, abandoned lumber town.
That's strange.
Exterior, abandoned lumber town.
Got away, huh? Fine work, just dandy. Boy, oh boy, I gotta put you down. You know who I am, right? Bah, of course you do.
Her voice echoes through the old abandoned town. The snow falls heavy in the bitter cold.
No matter. Things are still on point. Keep looking. That prize may still be around here somewhere.
Werewolf 2, snarling, nods and skulks off into the small town.
Exterior, side of a building, abandoned lumber town. Santa, from a distance, inspects the fur patch he tore from Werewolf 2 and angrily stuffs it into his jacket pocket. He growls and races off into the darkness. Interior, barn. The calendar reads December 24th. A giant countdown clock shows 15 minutes to departure. Proficio slams down 3 test tubes in a wooden holder on the table in front of Santa Claus and Capitus. The vials clink together. Each vial has a different colored liquid, a red one, a yellow one, and a green one. Bubbles hiss up to the top of the vials and pop. Santa and Capitus glance over at each other.
Easy with those. We're out of time to mix up any more.
I made 3 different antidotes. I have no idea, well, if they'll even work. It's the best I got, not being a biochemist and all.
You mean I meant to drink these?
Yeah.
It reminds me of the time I stopped for midnight supper in Kuala Lumpur. They have this soup.
It's time to go. We're exactly 5 minutes away from departure.
Santa throws on his jacket. The tear has gotten bigger in the side. The jacket shows signs of wear and the color has faded from the once vibrant red it had. He buckles his big belt and pulls his big red hat down snugly around his ears. Capitus slips on his big green festive parka and seizes the vials. With care, he slips them into a protective case and slides the case into his inner jacket pocket.
Sure you don't want to come along?
Oh, I'm sure. That thing has no business staying up in the sky. Reindeer pulling a sleigh through the sky? Yeah. Then that whole werewolf thing you've got going on.
Santa and Capitus hop up onto the sleigh like a couple of kids getting into a ride at the fair. 8 reindeer snort and grunt in anticipation of the trip. Santa runs his finger over the rip in his jacket. He looks down at the ring he removed from his pocket. He tucks the ring back in.
Giddy up!
The sleigh jolts forward as the reindeers gallop ahead. Proficio waves as the sleigh jumps forward and races out of the building. Proficio turns to walk away and he notices a blinking light on the back right side of the sleigh. His head snaps back and he squints his eyes.
Is that a...
He scrubs his chin and runs back inside. Exterior, forest. Elsa sits on her snowmobile just inside at the forest edge. She holds up to the sky a strange, cobbled-together tracking device. A small blip on the screen slides away as the red light blinking on the back of the sleigh fades into the distance. She drops the device onto the seat and pulls the shiny metal case from her inside jacket pocket. She flips open the case, revealing 4 silver bullets shimmering in the moonlight. She pops them one after the other into her rifle and slings it over her shoulder. In a swirl of snow, she kicks the snowmobile into high and races off into the cold night. Interior, Santa's workshop.
Come in, Fat Man 1. Respond.
Proficio taps a switch on the old transmitter console. He waits for a response, but nothing comes. He adjusts a dial and listens, but only the hiss of static responds.
You may be followed. Please come in, Fat Man...
Static. Proficio flips the headset onto the table and rubs his eyes. He lets loose a heavy sigh. Exterior, sky, night. The full moon glows as it hangs above the sleeping world. The rickety old sleigh tears through the night sky, falling snow spirals in its wake. The reindeer push through. Warm breath crystallizes as soon as it leaves their mouths. Capitus, looking down at the timepiece in his left hand, and with his right hand ticks off a checkbox on his clipboard. Just out of view, severed wires hang down from the communication center in the dash of the sleigh. Up through the clouds, the sleigh rises like the sun coming over the horizon. The full moon beats down on Santa like a waterfall.
Right on schedule. We're 2 hours in, and so far so good. Santa? Santa?
Santa shudders and slumps forward, his hands clasped onto the front of the sleigh. Capitus drops his clipboard and fumbles in his jacket, and his hand emerges with the yellow vial. Santa snaps it up from his hand and quickly chugs it down. He slumps back into the chair.
Santa? How do you feel?
Santa grumbles and thrashes around. His body mass enlarges significantly and he balloons up. His suit, being stretched to the seams, can barely contain him. His face has expanded and his chin has tripled. All his clothes stretch as far as their fibers allow. He fills most of the sleigh. Capitus, squashed into the side, tries to speak but only gasps emerge. Santa grabs a box from the bag of toys and rips it open. He tosses cookies into his mouth with a loud crunch. The sleigh jolts and drops.
We're going down!
The reindeer groan as the sleigh descends. The weight drags the reindeer down and they plummet into the clouds.
Exterior, deeper in the forest, night. Elsa zips along on her snowmobile, periodically peering down at her tracking device. The red blip blinks closer and closer. To her right, Werewolf 1 races along, keeping pace. Its vibrant green eyes watching her. She turns to Werewolf 1.
I always win! They've stopped! Damn, I'm good. But that's expected.
She signals forward with a pointed hand. Exterior, forest clearing. 2 deep tracks in the snow lead to the sleigh stopped at an awkward angle. A snow mound has built up on the right side of the sleigh. The reindeer shuffle around, pulling the sleigh free from the snow. Capitus squeezes out from beside Santa and falls into the footwell of the sleigh.
Everyone okay?
I'm still in one piece. I can't say the same for my schedule.
Santa jostles around, attempting to get out of the sleigh with little success. The humming sound of an engine echoes from within the tree line. Santa can't pull himself free. The snowmobile piloted by Elsa bursts from the trees, followed by Werewolf 1 on foot. The 2 slam onto the snow-covered ground and slide to a halt. Elsa locks her gun on Santa.
What the hell is this? I need a werewolf. You're a mess.
A look of disgust drawn on her face.
I'd rather look a mess than give you what you want. Financial gain. Oh, this is financial gain all you care about.
Capitus clenches his ticking timepiece in his hand. He notices the severed wires hanging out of the communications center. He flicks them with his finger.
Don't forget fame, old chap. I care about educating the world. I'll have you stuffed, and the world will come to me for Christmas.
That's sick. and not about to happen.
Santa notices a half-eaten cookie on his chest and tosses it into his mouth. Crunch.
Sick. Sick is watching you eat. Sick is bringing presents year after year to a bunch of spoiled brats. People don't care about you. They care about what they can see, what they can get. They're gonna see you like never before. I need you as a werewolf. Let's go.
Elsa, with gun aimed, signals towards Santa with a nod. Werewolf 1 moves in towards the sleigh. Santa, hidden by the sleigh, nudges Capitus and slides him the emergency wrap cannon with his foot. Capitus glances up at Santa in disbelief. He shakes his head side to side nervously.
I can't.
Santa discreetly flicks his head toward Elsa. Capitus shakes his head faster.
I just can't.
He shoves the cannon into Santa's hands and slumps further down in the footwell. Werewolf 1 approaches. Santa shifts and pulls, trying to squeeze the cannon out of the footwell. It finally snaps free. He fires. Pop! The wrap ball engulfs Elsa's body in wrapping paper. Santa tosses the cannon into the back and grabs the reins. He snaps them. The reindeer take off running and the sleigh follows. Werewolf 1 looks to Elsa.
Do I look like I need your help, fool? Do I have to do everything myself? Get them!
Werewolf 1 takes off like a shot. From inside the wrapping paper, a knife spears out and slices up. The shredded gift wrap cascades to the ground. Exterior forest. The sleigh bounces and jumps but can't get off the ground. Werewolf 1 sprints behind, hot on the trail.
Cap, sometimes we need to make a decision between what's right and what's easy. So quit being such a baby and take the reins. I'm not feeling so good.
Capitus, with a look of shock at Santa's harsh words, climbs out of the footwell and takes the reins. A tree comes at them directly ahead.
Oh no!
He swerves the sled around the tree. He glances back.
It's too close.
Getting a little more confident, he swerves in and out of the trees through the forest. Snow splashes into the air. Werewolf 2 leaps from the trees and lands with a boom on the front of the sleigh, snarling.
Another one? She's some sort of werewolf Pied Piper?
He jerks the reins to the left and the reindeer respond. Werewolf 2, standing precariously on the front, stumbles and slips. Werewolf 1 catches the back of the sleigh and pulls itself along. Santa shifts around but can't free himself from the seat. His stomach grumbles and scarfs down a couple of more cookies. The sleigh bounces and the rest of the cookies flip out of his hand. Santa notices the 2 remaining vials and Capitus's jacket bouncing around. He quickly snatches one of them, the green one.
Bottoms up!
He gulps the liquid down. He balloons up further. His skin ripples and distorts.
Whoa, not better.
Werewolf 1 on the back pulls itself up closer. Werewolf 2 at the front, now back on its feet, moves in. Capitus, sweating, stares into the beast's glowing yellow eyes. Werewolf 2 thrusts at Capitus. Santa, now thinned down, pounces in the way. He catches Werewolf 2 by the foot and heaves it off the side into the fast-moving snow. Werewolf 2 flops around like a bag of flour as it rolls out of control in the snow. Capitus snaps the reins. The lighter sleigh ascends into the air. Werewolf 1 on the back of the sleigh clambers up into the sack of toys. It howls as it moves in closer. The sleigh continues to ascend. Santa charges and boots Werewolf 1 off the back of the sleigh. Exterior river. Werewolf 1 plunges into the cold river as the sleigh passes overhead. Elsa veers into a stop at the edge of the water as Werewolf 1 hauls itself out of the frigid water.
Idiot.
Werewolf 1 sags its head down. Werewolf 2, covered in snow, bounds up next to Elsa. She's standing on her snowmobile, staring as the sleigh recedes into the dark clouds. Exterior house roof. Capitus, sitting in the sleigh, checks off milestones as his timepiece ticks on. He rubs his forehead.
Making up some time.
Interior house living room. Santa tiptoes across the room over to the mantel. 4 large argyle stockings dangle down. He grins as he slips toys into the first 3 stockings. He pauses on the 4th. It has a large tear inside. His grin fades as he stares at the tear. Anger overtakes his features as he rips the stocking down.
How hard is it to get this repaired? Surely there must be someone who can fix it.
He throws the stocking into the fireplace.
Abandoned. Just left to fix things for yourself. Bah, this is useless. Can't even repair a simple tear. What's the point? What's the matter anymore? What's the matter anymore? Why am I even doing this?
He swipes his arms across the mantel, knocking the family photos across the room. He turns away and massages his forehead for a moment. He turns back and picks up the stocking. He fills it with toys and slips it back on the mantel.
These are good kids. Maybe it has sentimental value. It does matter.
He sneaks over towards the Christmas tree. The dark clouds slowly part and the moon rains down on the house and through the living room window. Capitus glances up at the full moon breaking through the clouds. His eyes widen as he jumps up. Santa Claus, standing at the living room window, gazes up at the moon. The twinkling in his eyes fades to yellow, and he howls. Capitus crashes down the fireplace, smash the last vial poised in his hand.
Santa!
Santa turns with a jerk towards the fireplace. Capitus throws the red vial at him like a quarterback. Santa catches the vial from the air with little effort. He raises the vial to his mouth. He pauses for a moment and lowers his hand. A mischievous grin shapes his mouth.
This just feels too good. Pain is gone. Aches are gone. Not tired. I like this.
No, you can't. This isn't you talking. Drink the vial.
Maybe you're right. Not thinking clearly. People depend on me. Well, maybe they shouldn't. Drink it. Bah! I've been drinking things for years. Sour milk, warm milk. I'm tired of it. I am done.
He smashes the vial on the wooden floor. Capitus turns away in disbelief. The antidote bubbles and dissolves into the floorboards. Santa howls again as his transformation rate increases. His ears grow, his face elongates, and he falls to his knees. His body mass increases as his jacket splits further down the back. His legs grow too long for his pants, and his boots shred off his feet. He flops over onto his back and crashes through the coffee table. Santa jumps to his feet, all covered in fur, and rises up on his hind hunches. Wood and glass rain down off his back as he rears up, unleashing a deafening howl. Upstairs, the lights flick on. Mother, 30, modern woman, average height, with dark hair tied back in a ponytail. The mother creeps partially down the stairs, full of excitement.
Come, children, let's see if Santa came.
Santa Claus turns and growls at them with drool-covered teeth exposed. He tears a present in half and throws it.
Nope.
She shuffles the family back up the stairs. Santa grabs his forehead in pain. He tilts back and stumbles, smashing into the wall.
Oh, what am I doing?
Capitus scurries back up the chimney.
Embracing my new lease on life.
Santa smashes tables, throws the Christmas tree through the side window. He flips over the couch and throws the chair through the wall into the kitchen. He lifts the table with the milk and cookies, about to throw them across the room. He pauses briefly, rubbing his forehead.
Calm down, Claus.
He calms down and bites into a cookie, savoring the mouthful. He takes a second bite. He pauses, then devours the entire plate of cookies. He twitches and jerks around, holding his head again.
Oh, look, another glass of milk. Yay, for me.
He howls and chugs down the milk, splashing it everywhere. He whips his forearm across his mouth, wiping it clean, and smashes the glass through the TV set. He takes off running and smashes through the wall. Exterior, neighboring house. Santa crashes through the wall. He races through the house. Furniture explodes from the windows, and he smashes through the other side and into the next house. Exterior, edge of town. Elsa drives up into town, slowly cruising along, tracking the city.
Perfect. I'm giddy with excitement.
A scene of destruction sits ahead as debris litters the street and the lights glow on in most of the houses. Elsa smiles as she lowers the tracker and raises the weapon hanging on her shoulder.
Come out, wherever you are.
Santa Claus explodes from the front window of one of the houses and dives at her. Boom. Her gun fires, but Santa Claus knocks her to the ground. He takes off, running on all fours down the middle of the street. Elsa hops back onto the snowmobile and gives chase. Exterior, clock tower, town hall, night. Partially shrouded in the falling snow, a clock tower resembling Big Ben sits in the distance like a winter oasis. The tower caps to the top of the City Hall building. The clock arm clicks to 11:55. The sound of carolers rings in the air. Santa Claus darts into the town square where the clock tower sits like a watchful eye. The town hall backs onto a huge cliff. A winter Christmas carol celebration takes place below the clock tower. The townsfolk look up at the tower as they squeeze out songs from beneath their bundles of clothing. The snow billows down faster. Santa bursts through the crowd like a runaway train. Screams and hollers reverberate off the building. The force of Santa knocks and tosses carolers around. Santa springs into the air, latching onto a window ledge of the second of 5 floors.
Is that Santa?
It can't be.
Santa vaults up from one floor to the next until he reaches the base of the clock tower. Exterior, City Hall, clock tower, rooftop. Santa's heavy breath crystallizes into a cloud as he takes deep heaving breaths on the roof. The snow cascades down around him. The moon hangs in the sky like a quiet observer. A door to the rooftop flies open as Elsa bursts through with gun aimed. The 2 monstrous werewolves barrel through right behind her and brush past her side, taking a protective stance in front. Santa, still semi-human, hunches into an attack posture and growls. Boom! Elsa fires. Capitus slams the sleigh down on the roof between Santa and the werewolves. The bullet rips into the side of the sleigh, blasting pieces of wood across Capitus' face. The harness rips free and the reindeer race off.
Okay, this has been great fun for all of us. Santa, you're tired. Why not come willingly? You can rest, live on forever, appreciated by all.
Live on as a stuffed museum piece. You're the only one who'll benefit from that.
I always get what I want.
So you said. Not this time.
The tower clock's large hand clicks over to 12 midnight. Clock gongs 1. Santa Claus leaps over Elsa and the two werewolves. He latches onto the side of the tower. He swings like a monkey from level to level, heading towards the top. Elsa swings around and points with a strong flick of her hand.
Do you need an invitation? Go!
Clock gongs 2. The two werewolves take off up the tower side after Santa. Elsa looks up at the tower as she backs away to get a better angle. She stumbles against the rooftop edge, losing her balance. She regains her composure and peers over her shoulder. The edge drops straight down into dark nothingness. Clock gongs 3. The two werewolves snap and grab at Santa's feet as they scale up the side of the tower after him. Santa flips and dodges. He swings from ledge to ledge. Elsa, looking through her gun sight, takes aim at Santa clambering up the tower.
Come to Elsa.
Clock gongs 4. Santa moves into the sight. Boom, she takes a shot. Santa ducks and the bullet misses, ricocheting off one of the ledges. Bits of concrete crumble from the hit. With a piercing crack, the stray bullet rips through the wooden housing, holding one of the 3 giant tower bells. Santa kicks Werewolf 1 in the mouth and it drops a few floors, catching another ledge. The people in the town square watch on in horror, snapping pictures. Clock gongs 5. Elsa can't get a clear shot. She notices a door to the tower stairs. She sprints over and kicks the door open. Santa rides Werewolf 2 like a horse along the ledge, and as he turns it sharp, smashing it through a stained glass window as he leaps off. Interior, clock tower stairwell. Clock gongs 6. Elsa races up flight after flight of stairs inside the tower. Werewolf 2 smashes through a window, almost slamming into her. She leaps over the beast as it rolls down the flight of stairs. She continues racing upward.
Gonna catch me a Santa beast, gonna make him deceased.
Intercut with exterior clock tower. Werewolf 1 has Santa by the foot. Capitus, laying down on the sleigh, sees the rap cannon beside him, pulls out his timepiece, now stuck at 11:56. The crystal has a crack running down the front. He stares at it for a moment in shock. He slips it back into his pocket and takes a deep breath. He grabs the rap cannon. He closes his eyes tightly and takes another deep breath.
You can do this. You can do this.
His eyes pop open. He leaps up onto the seat with confidence and targets Werewolf 1. Clock gongs 7.
Tick-tock. Time's up.
He fires. Pop. Werewolf 1's leg wraps to a spear on the tower. It's stuck. Santa leaps up to the next ledge. Werewolf 2 smashes through another stained glass window and pounces on the ledge in front of Santa, ready to attack. Clock gongs 8. Elsa, in mid-run, slams a door open with the butt of her gun as she reaches the bell tower. The wind howls in the open tower, blowing snow through. She inhales deep breaths as she surveys the frigid room. She slinks over to one of the 4 windows. The loud, slow swinging bells above her head don't faze her as she leans out the window, peering down. Elsa peeks through her gun sight but can't get a good angle. Clock gongs 9. Santa and the Werewolf 2 face off on the ledge. Werewolf 2 dives into Santa, knocking the two of them off the ledge. They plunge down to the rooftop and crash next to the sleigh. Werewolf 2 grabs Santa and swings around, flinging him to the side of the sleigh. Santa smacks flat against the side. He shakes his head, then lunges at Werewolf 2. It leaps onto his back, kicking over him. Werewolf 2 grabs the sleigh and pushes it towards the edge. Clock gongs 10. Santa swipes the werewolf's feet out from under it. It drops to the ground.
Yes! Get him, Santa!
It turns and bites Santa in the leg. Capitus pulls a wrapped bowling ball from the toy bag. He looks at the tag.
Sorry, Abraham Poppycock.
He drops it on Werewolf 2's head. It turns and growls at him. Santa leaps up and hoists the werewolf over his head. He flings the werewolf away from the sleigh. It plows into the tower stairwell door. The door rips from its hinges. Werewolf 2 throws the door back at Santa. It explodes into pieces, knocking Santa back. Werewolf 1 gnaws at the wrapping paper on its leg, tearing pieces away. Clock gongs 11. Elsa climbs up onto the swinging bell and stands balanced on the top. She leans forward as the bell swings out. over the 300-foot drop below. Below that, the cliff drops off into blackness. Werewolf 2 leaps at Santa, who flips onto his back, slamming the beast over him and the sleigh. Werewolf 2 slams down on the roof, hitting a patch of ice, and slides off the edge over the cliff.
No!
She draws her gun and gets a beat on Santa.
Stuffing you's gonna be a pleasure.
The bell swings back inside.
Clock gongs 12. Capitus stares up at the clock tower desperately.
The last chime.
Crazed Elsa smiles as she looks through her sight. She thrusts the bell, swinging it out further over the edge, and Santa slides into the center of her sight.
Gotcha.
She squeezes the trigger. With a loud crack, the bell housing rips apart. Elsa's eyes widen as the bell she stands on flies off. She screams as she and the bell fall away from the tower. She flips over the cliff. Elsa's screams fade away as she vanishes into the black void below. Snow swirls down around her. Werewolf 1 shreds the wrapping paper, holding it in place. It leaps down to the roof. It lets out a loud howl. It turns and leaps off the roof, retreating to forest. Santa rises up to full height with his hand on the side of his sleigh. His head twitches and jerks, his eyes turning yellow. He turns and pushes the sleigh closer to the edge.
Santa, wait! Wait!
Santa howls and growls. His body contorts and twists as he holds onto the sleigh. His ears stretch into points and his hands mutate into paw hands. His legs elongate out of his pant legs. Whiskers burst from his skin. He mostly resembles a wolf now. He rears up to full height and hoists the sleigh over his head.
Santa, it's me, Cap. This is not the best idea. We can still save Christmas. There's still time. Just put the sleigh down. We'll fix it together.
Santa Claus snorts, ignoring Capitus. He steps closer to the edge and leans in to a throw. The ring pops from his pocket and drops to the ground with a tink. He looks down at the ring as it spins to a stop in the snow. He stares, his head tilting, his yellow eyes shift over to the huge hole in his faded maroon-colored suit, then back to the ring. A tear wriggles down his cheek and his eyes squeeze shut. He twitches and staggers as though drunk. He sways and stumbles. The sleigh drops from his hands. With a crash, it hits the ground and skips closer to the edge. Capitus falls onto his back. The sleigh slides. Santa falls to his knees.
The sleigh!
Santa lifts his heavy head and spies the ring. He rummages around in the snow and picks it up. He sighs and clenches the ring in his fist. He places his fist to his forehead as he squeezes his eyes shut. Starting with that hand, his size shrinks. The change spreads down his arm. The fur pulls back into his skin. It spreads to his chest and neck, up to his face. His ears revert back and his face shortens. His body shrinks as the change spreads down. Santa, now back to his normal height, retains part of the werewolf features. He looks much leaner, eyes are yellow, patches of fur sticking out, and a slight point to his ears. With care, slips the ring onto his smallest finger.
Santa!
Santa snaps from his trance. He shakes off the daze and springs to his feet.
Hang on, my boy!
He dives and slides through the snow on his belly. He latches onto the sleigh by the ski. He digs his bare feet into the roof. The sleigh continues to slip over the edge. Santa feels the pull of the weight.
I can't hold it right. It's too heavy.
Capitus turns to the back of the sleigh with a huge bag of toys. He grabs onto the bag and pulls with all his might. He can't lift it. He notices beyond the bag the drop into nothingness. He slides towards. His eyes widen.
Santa, what do I do? It's too heavy for me.
Santa, slowly sliding over the edge, glares up at the moon. The twinkle returns to his eyes, and the yellow completely fades. He releases his grip, and the sleigh slips over the edge.
Ah!
Santa's hand, still covered in fur, spears out and grabs Capitus by the back of the jacket. The sleigh and all the toys drop away. Capitus dangles over the edge, held by Santa. The sleigh slams off the rocky edge and launches the bag of toys further out. The sleigh drops more and hits the side again. Santa watches as the sleigh and the inscription, "Joy is what you bring some for yourself, love you always," explodes into wooden debris, splintering as it rolls off the cliff edge. The debris and the bag of toys fade into the darkness. Santa hauls Capitus back up on top of the roof. The two slump against the ledge cap. Capitus takes out his broken timepiece and he shakes his head.
I don't think we're gonna make it. Spent so much time worrying about schedules. Not a good that did.
This reminds me of a Christmas Eve. One of my early runs. Well, without the werewolf thing. And the crazed game hunter. I lost all the toys when I flew close to a bridge in Hamburg. I was young and cocky, weaving in and out.
What'd you do?
I gave up. Couldn't sleep for weeks. Learned some humility that night. Life moves along in one direction, then bam, it changes.
Santa glances at the second ring on his finger.
We can't let it consume us. I've never felt so bad about anything until this year.
You gonna be okay?
Yes, I will. It's always a good part of me, but that's a good thing. It is impossible to forget.
Capitus clicks a button on the broken timepiece. He sighs and tosses the timepiece over his head into the abyss below. He puts his head into his hands. Santa puts a hand on his back and gives him a consoling pat.
People will understand in time.
The faint sound of bells jingling echoes from the void. Capitus lifts his head and turns. Santa turns to lean over the edge. A sleigh pulled by 8 reindeer soars up from the dark cliff. Proficio sits at the helm of the new sleigh Santa hadn't been able to bring himself to use.
Hey, Frosty Pants, how are we supposed to deliver all these presents on time without this?
Poised in his hand sits the timepiece, and he points to the back of the sleigh, where the bag of toys sits glowing in the moonlight.
Looking good, Santa.
Proficio shudders and hunkers down into the seat. 6 safety harnesses wrap around his body, holding him in place. Capitus, with a big grin, gazes over to Santa, who rises to his feet, laughing.
Ho, 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 ho! Well done indeed.
Proficio swings around and puts the sleigh down on the roof. Crossfade, exterior, sky above an unnamed city, night. The moon hangs in the sky like a glowing fingernail. Santa's sleigh swoops down in front of the moon and across the sky. Capitus taps the earpiece on his headset and directs the sleigh trajectory with a point. Proficio pops into the driver's seat, holding onto the reins, steering the reindeer. He jerks the reins and the sleigh descends, swooping down over some trees. Only 2 safety harnesses hold him in place.
We're running behind.
Not to worry. We've got time.
A small town waits straight ahead. Capitus points with a flicking hand.
Ready to unleash Operation Turn and Burn?
Santa Claus, sitting next to him, kisses the 2 rings hanging around his neck like dog tags and tucks them into his brilliant new red jacket. He turns around and smiles. With control, he grows bigger, a bit hairier, a bit bulkier, but not so terrifying.
Let's do this.
Capitus gives him the go-ahead signal, and he leaps from the back of the sleigh with a big bag of toys. He pounces onto a rooftop. He sprints along, tossing presents into chimneys, nimbly leaping in and out of homes, from rooftop to rooftop. He leaps into the air and unleashes a loud, excited howl as he runs off into the distance with the sleigh tracking along above.